And Andy, we're going to move swiftly on to yourself for you to share some IT hints and tips.
Hi, Julia. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me back on. I'm going to pick up neatly from Tori's last sentence there, actually, because we've observed one thing above pretty much anything else over the last 12 weeks or so. And it's that those companies who've been actively engaged on social media, active with their networking, active in conversations with customers and their suppliers, they're the ones that have found ways to make the most of these uncertain times. Simply staying engaged, I think, with other people, staying within your bubble and dipping your hand outside every now and again as well, is often enough just to trigger the ideas that are a bit slow to come if we lock ourselves in a room on our own. So we've definitely seen that a state of mind has been one of the biggest advantages that companies who've made it through these difficult times have carried with them. As a business ourselves, we took a bit of a hit. We took about a 35% hit overnight back at the tail end of March. Then things leveled off. We have a good subscription customer base for our IT support services. So that's allowed us to sort of level through this period of time and take time to reflect and actually adapt our model to reflect the changing needs of our customers and our prospective customers. So now we've very much pivoted is the term that is used most, I think, but we've pivoted to look at specifically how smaller businesses can use technology to support a remote working or flexible working model. Because, there is no doubt that if I share my screen, I can start to take you through some slides. There's no doubt in my mind that COVID-19 is going to have a lasting impact on our working practices. People we're talking to every day are sort of indicating that there's going to be a difference. Working from home may not be ideal for many people, but the alternative for many is a return to the daily commute and 8 hours sitting in an office. And that's going to be quite a shock to go back into, mentally as well as physically, when we're going to be leaving so much more of our free time to commuting. And studies have actually shown that during lockdown, remote working has increased performance. So from our perspective, if I can just get our slides, most organizations will retain at least an element of remote or flexible working. This commuting time actually is so important to people. There's a couple of studies that I'll just reference here, but Lloyds Bank have worked out that the average worker spends £37,000 in their working life on their commuting. And that's not to mention the time spent. Optimum employee engagement occurs when employees are spending between 60 and 80% of their time working remotely. And a highly engaged workforce actually, according to Gallup, gives a 20+% higher profitability for organizations that are working that way. 80% of employees themselves believe their productivity has increased while remote working, and that's been demonstrated, I think, many times with Sweden and their 4-day working week that was mentioned earlier. And companies that support remote working also have 25% lower employee turnover. From an HR perspective and a recruitment perspective, everyone will recognise how expensive it is to attract and retain employees. So we have no doubt that there'll be an element of remote or flexible working for organisations going forward. So how can IT help? Well, you should be looking at IT to help you in 3 main areas that are important for a flexible or a remote working model. The first is to keep your team connected and productive. If you think back to the days where we all sat in offices and we were talking to each other, it's amazing how many of those conversations actually related to simply getting the job done. Things like, oh, did the delivery get to Joe last Thursday? Or are you going to be in the office tomorrow so that we can run through these numbers? Or whatever those conversations were, they happened very naturally in an office environment as a chat at the coffee machine or a talk across a desk. So it's important to try and mimic those conversations and allow your staff to continue to be productive and interact with each other in a remote working environment. That clearly means things like Zoom and other video sharing, but it also includes things like the ability to chat sort of persistently through the day with a conversation that might be peppered through a whole working day of 8 hours or so. It's also important to remember that you need to give people access to the data that they used to have in the office, because no longer is the spreadsheet sitting on John's machine any good to Julie, who's sitting 50 miles away in her home office. So keeping that team connected and productive is one of the key ways that IT can help. And of course, in order to keep your data secure and maintain control of your business, one of the key pointers that I can give is that you should keep your business and your customers' data in as few places as possible, and the number of tools that you use to a minimum. You need to give yourself half a chance here of understanding where your data is, who has access to it, and how you can keep your data secure. And for most small businesses, that realistically means cloud services, where you can access that same data from wherever you may be. And for small businesses, cloud services, more often than not, means Google's G Suite or Microsoft 365. And right now, from a commercial perspective, unless you're totally anti-Microsoft, which some are, Microsoft usually ends up on top. So cloud services, Microsoft and Google. If you hate Microsoft, Microsoft, if you're fairly neutral, is probably the best way for most businesses to go. I've got a bonus tip as well, if I can, and that is, don't stop there. Look for opportunities where those very same pieces of IT can actually help you automate the tedious tasks that nobody likes to do. I know, for example, Julia, that you use a bookings app that saves you loads of time ping-ponging emails backwards and forwards, trying to arrange when a meeting might be convenient for both you and one of your clients. And another really good example is whether you've ever stopped to actually analyze how much time you spend as a business entering the same information into different systems. If you haven't, it's really worth giving it a go, and get your team involved as well, because as a business owner, it's a really good way to find out how your business really works day to day, and a great way to find out that those tasks that people really don't like could be the first ones for you to automate. There's no reason why your new normal couldn't be even more efficient than your old normal. And if you've already got the technology there to help you do it, it's a good way to move forward. So in sort of summary for me, many people think of IT as a nuisance or an expensive inconvenience, but it doesn't have to be that way. The right IT can help with almost any area of your business. It can help you run more effectively and, importantly, adapt more quickly as our circumstances change again. We don't want to be in the same position as we were before, caught on the hop. And we've already helped lots of businesses to put just the right amount of technology in place. It's an open offer for anyone on this call that if you'd like a chat and some pointers as to how we can help you, then I'll be more than happy to catch up afterwards.
Thank you, Andy. Some very sensible advice as always. Thank you. Absolutely key to get these things sorted, and it's a real opportunity.